Every street hides a story. Some are written in history books, others are whispered in quiet corners. This one, they called it the last floor light. In a quiet neighborhood, far from the bustling city, stood an old residential building that most people passed without a second glance. It wasn't abandoned. People lived there. Families, workers, students, normal lives unfolding behind normal doors. But there was one thing everyone seemed to agree on. The light on the last floor should never be on after midnight. The building had 7 floors. The 7th floor, years ago, used to be different before the renovations, before the new tenants. The older residents would tell you that the top floor once housed a small, private clinic. It closed suddenly, without any official explanation. One week it was open for business. The next, it was completely empty. Eventually, the rooms were converted into apartments. Fresh paint, new tiles, new tenants. But the stories, they lingered like dust in the air. The first complaint came from a night security guard named Karim. He worked the midnight shift and often took his smoke break outside near the entrance. Around 2:30 in the morning, he noticed a light flicker on from the top floor of the corner apartment facing the street. That apartment had been empty for months. He just figured someone had finally moved in. But the next night, the same light turned on again, at exactly the same time, 2:30 a.m. sharp. There was no movement on the balcony, no shadows passing by the curtains, just a steady, pale yellow light. Karim mentioned it casually to the building manager the next morning. The manager frowned. "That apartment is still vacant," he said, and to prove it, he showed Karim the keys, still locked securely in the office drawer. Karim laughed it off, thinking he must have seen the wrong window. But the light kept appearing, always at 2:30 a.m. Always the same apartment, and it always turned off just before dawn. After a week, his curiosity started to get the better of him. Karim decided he had to check it out himself. One night, when the light appeared again, he took the elevator straight to the 7th floor. The hallway was silent. Too silent. The kind of silence where your own breathing sounds like a roar. He could see the light from under the apartment door. Someone was definitely inside. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again. This time louder. Still nothing. Then he noticed something strange. The light wasn't steady anymore. It was flickering slightly, like an old fluorescent bulb struggling to stay alive. Karim leaned closer to the door, pressing his ear against the cold wood, and that's when he heard it. A faint sound, like metal instruments lightly touching each other. Soft clinks, slow, deliberate movements, as if someone was carefully arranging tools on a tray. The sound stopped the very moment he stepped back. He waited. Nothing. Feeling deeply uneasy, he went back downstairs and reported it again. The manager insisted nobody had entered the apartment. To prove his point, they both went up together the next morning. The apartment was empty. No furniture, no lights on, not a single sign that anyone had been there. But in the center of the living room floor, there was a faint rectangular mark a shade darker than the surrounding tiles, as if something heavy had once stood there for a very, very long time. The manager blamed it on old stains from before the renovation. After that, Karim stopped asking questions. But the light kept appearing. Soon other residents started noticing it too. A woman returning late from work mentioned seeing a figure standing behind the curtain one night perfectly still. When she blinked and looked again, the figure was gone. Another resident living on the 6th floor claimed he heard footsteps above his ceiling, right in the spot where no one was supposed to be living. Most people tried to ignore it. Buildings make strange noises. Lights can malfunction. Old stories get exaggerated, that is, until the night the elevator stopped. At exactly 2:30 a.m., a young tenant named Samir was coming home late. The elevator suddenly froze between the 6th and 7th floors. The lights inside flickered, then went out completely, plunging him into darkness. He frantically pressed the emergency button. No response. Then he heard something right above him. Dragging sounds, slow, heavy, moving across the floor directly above the elevator car. He shouted, thinking someone was there and could help him. The dragging stopped. A heavy silence followed. Then came 3 slow knocks, directly above his head. When the elevator finally restarted a few minutes later, Samir was terrified. He refused to ever use it again at night. Word of his experience spread quickly through the building. Some residents began closing their curtains before midnight, just so they wouldn't have to see the top floor. Others just avoided looking up at all. But the strangest event happened a few weeks later. Karim, the security guard, didn't show up for his shift one morning. His replacement said Karim had left early the night before, claiming he felt sick. But when the manager checked the security footage, it told a different story. Karim never exited the building. The last recording showed him entering the elevator at 2:28 a.m., looking up toward the camera with a distracted expression, as if his attention was caught by something just out of frame. The elevator doors closed. At exactly 2:30 a.m., the light on the 7th floor turned on. The elevator reached the top floor, and it stayed there. When maintenance pried the elevator doors open later that morning, it was empty. Karim was never seen again. The police investigated. They found nothing unusual. No signs of a struggle, no forced entry anywhere. Eventually, the case went cold. Months passed. New tenants moved in, old ones left. The stories began to fade, becoming just another piece of the building's history, until a new family rented the corner apartment on the 7th floor. For a while, the light stopped appearing. People assumed whatever electrical problem existed had finally been fixed. Then one night, a neighbor noticed something chillingly familiar. At exactly 2:30 a.m., the yellow light came on again. But this time, the apartment was occupied. The next morning, the new tenant complained to the management. He said the lights in his living room were turning on by themselves every single night, always at the same time. He figured it was just faulty wiring. An electrician came and checked everything. He found no issues. When the manager asked what woke him up each night, the tenant hesitated before answering. He said he kept hearing sounds coming from the living room. Metal touching metal, like someone arranging tools, carefully, in the dark. That family moved out within 2 weeks. Today, the building still stands. People still live there. And most nights, nothing happens. But the residents who know the story say that if you pass by after midnight and look up at the top floor, you might just see a pale yellow light flicker on for a few seconds before disappearing, always at the same time. And those who know the story will quietly tell new tenants one thing: if the last floor light turns on while you re-inside, don't go upstairs to check, because sometimes, whatever turns it on is still waiting for someone to answer the knock. Some stories stay with you until the next street tale. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, follow for more stories from the shadows.